What's up, my ninjas? Stratton here, and I felt like addressing the return of Marvel Legends. As you guys know, I'm a fan of the Marvel movie figures. I really dig. We'll call them movie legends right now, or Avengers legends. I really dig those figures. For some reason, the combination of the sculpts and some of the articulation, well, the majority of the articulation is really awesome. And it's just the fact that it's like you're getting Marvel Legends quality figures, but not tied to the Marvel Legends name. So the hits and misses there aren't as bad as when you get this shitty figure with Marvel Legends all typed out on top of the decked out on the cover of the figure. So anyway, recently my son and I, we got the well, he got the Iron Man figure, the Extremis Iron Man. And we're looking at the figure, and I'm expecting to open it up and have like this awesome, you know, nostalgia just in looking at him play with the figure and seeing all the posability and, all the cool stuff that they put in there. And then, as we're playing with him, he really isn't as posable as we were expecting. And you're looking at this really sleek figure, and there's kind of no excuse for it. And so I started to look at reviews all over the web or the net or the interwebs or whatever you want to call it, and especially on YouTube. And I noticed that people have glossed over so much of what's going on that doesn't work with these figures. You know, everyone puts their 2 cents about what they feel they should have done, but they didn't focus on what actually was done and not done right. And I feel like, I'm going to take the time to point out some of that stuff. Now, I'm going to do a kind of an overview because we only got 2 figures in the whole line because they were the 2 figures that I think were the most worth getting. The rest, I'm going to show you, images that I found and, point out the stuff that's missing that should be there, based on the sculpt, the particular character, the popularity of the character, etc., etc. And then, what the figure actually was. Now, I've had a lot of these figures in hand, though, because I have other friends who collect Marvel Legends, and they just want Marvel Legends so bad that, like, they don't really care about the quality of the figure as long as it's a Marvel Legends figure, because they've been seeing DC Universe classics for so long, and they want they like this running competition thing. Me personally, I just like figures. I like playing with figures. I like collecting and looking at figures. So if it's done right, then I'm like, I'm happy. But, at 15 to 20 bucks a pop, they can't be making these stupid mistakes. So we're going to jump into it right now. We're going to start out with the billionaire playboy himself, Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, in the Extremis suit. Since we bought this one, the only figures we bought, I actually was wrong. I bought 3 figures. I got this for my son. I got Steve and Thor for myself. But anyway, sculpt at first glance looks awesome. Everything's represented. It looks like the Extremis armor, only bigger. They really did a good job representing the armor. But he is not the he's not the pinnacle of articulation. And considering that there's been so many Iron Man figures before this, some of this shit we've been over, and they should have fixed it with this figure because it's a sleek figure. It's very organic, and being that it's very organic, he should have proper range of motion. I mean, at this point, he should have like almost SH Figuarts level range of motion. Now his head and neck is awesome. The arms are actually awesome. He does not come with extra hands like the movie legends, the Avengers movie figures. But he looks good flying. Actually, anything where he's standing up straight, he looks awesome. But like as soon as you get down to the lower his hip area, then you realize there's like several glaring issues with the way they sculpted his crotch. The legs are fine. It doesn't have that phony, fake ass Marvel Legends ball socket joint, for the hips. But the curve of where his thigh fits into the hip or the crotch or whatever it's so like slight, so you can't really bend his leg up any further than what you see right there. Basically, he can't sit down. Shit like this is what pisses me off about these figures, because they're like 15 to 20 bucks a pop and the fucking figure can't sit down. God forbid you want to do something else with the toy besides having him stand up straight, you know? And considering I bought this again for a kid, a 10-year-old, who's going to play with him and stuff, when he comes and he tells me maybe you could Dremel out his hips so I can put him in the pose from the comic and the movie, it kind of pisses me off that they didn't just already have it where this $20 figure could do this, you know? So when I'm watching reviews and I'm listening to people say how awesome these figures are, bullshit. You know? Bullshit. Just because it's Marvel Legends does not automatically make it good. And it frustrates the fuck out of me, because it's like, you guys are, well, a lot of you, I should say, are, you're giving a pass to something that you paid money for, and because you keep paying money for it, they're not gonna up the level of QC or the level of thought that goes into this shit, and it's unacceptable. Moving on. Now we have Daken, Dark Wolverine. Now I already am not a huge fan of the character, but at the same time, you know, I've seen him several times. I was pissed off when he killed Frank Castle, the Punisher. That pissed me off. But anyway, here's the character, the way he appears in the toy line. This is what he looks like in the comics. Do you notice that there is something missing? This is the kind of shit that, like, when Toy Biz was doing Marvel Legends, you never had these kind of details missing. The third claw. I don't care how often he uses it. I don't care if people want to say that most artists don't always draw it, but that was the whole point. He has a third claw. The fact that they omitted the third claw is a glaring fail. And it sucks that everyone's like, ooh, such a great figure. It's so awesome. Blah, 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 blah. Like, listen, that's like making the Punisher and not allowing him to hold guns, which was a fail, in my opinion, on the old Marvel Legends Punisher, because he had, instead of having like semi kung fu grip, he had articulated hands, which sucks because you really got to work at holding things in there. But anyway, this is the figure you got of Dark Wolverine, which looks very cartoony, not very comic book like, and it doesn't come across as the ferocious son of, you know, the great hope Wolverine. To me, it's a subpar figure. It's okay, but it's not $20 worth. If it works for you, then fine. I just don't have money to burn like that, so, you know, fuck this figure. Moving along. Phantom X. I love this character, or Weapon 13. I actually thought he was really cool, really different. I saw the figure, I was like, cool, I'm about to check him out. The first thing I noticed is that they're reusing the Cap body again. The Steve Rogers body again. And the jacket from, what's his name? Nick Fury, and parts of the Wolverine 2-pack from the Marvel Legends, you know, Hasbro version. But, you know, overall, you're looking at the figure, you're like, oh, cool, I get my John Woo on with this figure with 2 guns and the cool trench coat and all that stuff. And I looked at the guns and I'm like, damn, these guns actually look pretty cool. Then you get to actually having him do something with the guns. What the fuck is going on with his hands? Why is he holding the guns like this? You mean they couldn't sculpt new hands so that this motherfucker who uses guns could hold the fucking guns properly? We are adult collectors. We pay money. We work for this shit. We work for money. We pay for the shit with our own money. And they couldn't even give us, for 20 bucks, they couldn't even give us hand sculpted for the specifications necessary to allow him to hold his guns the right way. Are you fucking kidding me? And people are like, awesome figure. It's awesome. You should buy it. Fuck that. Okay, and now we move on to the Wrecking Crew, which I could give 2 shits about the Wrecking Crew. They are funny, don't get me wrong, and I always liked seeing Spider-Man beat the crap out of them or Thor beat the crap out of them, but I've never really given a shit, so I really don't care about this figure regardless. But sculpt-wise, it's not a horrible figure. I'm just thinking that there's other characters that are more prominent that could have taken this spot. And to think that they had the nerve to make a variant to go along with it, and this is not some like, I don't know. I don't remember when these characters became popular enough to warrant having variants of them, you know? I mean, they should have just done two members of the Wrecking Crew, you know, like freaking Crowbar and Thunderball, or I don't know. This is I don't know. I don't really care. I don't understand why this guy was valid, you know. And I know that this is an old character that they could have uh, used back in the Toy Biz days, but it's kind of an unimpressive figure. And with Pile Driver, okay, Pile Driver should have had sculpted fists, and they could have left out the ball and chain because he's not Thunderball. He's Pile Driver who uses his bare fists. So how did they not realize this? You know what I'm saying? And like, why are they not sculpting these figures to match McGinnis's artwork, or like, you know, most versions of the character seen in the artwork? You know, I don't understand. I will say though, I dig the face on Pile Driver. Both faces are cool, but I dig this face. It's one of those like smirks where you just want to slap the shit out of him. Like, what are you so cocky for? You're about to get your ass whooped. Anyway, moving along. Madam Mask. Are you kidding me? For real? Madam Mask. We needed a female in the line, and this was the only female that they thought was worthy enough, and people are like, yeah, I dig this. This is cool. No. She can't even hold her gun properly. Once again, no. For $20? Really? Like, when you think about it, this is the shit that makes people embarrassed to collect. Really? I mean, there are aspects of the figure that look okay, but seriously, she is a boring ass figure. Nothing stands out about the figure at all. Not even the sculpt. And $20? And they have a variant of this figure as well? No. Once again, to this, we say no. No, I had to get to one of the good figures immediately because I was getting angry. Because so far, it's like subpar figure after subpar figure after subpar figure. And I remember when I first saw this, I saw the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive version of this. I was like, this is the only Thor that I want. It's probably the only Marvel Legends figure that I really want for the new bunch, because he looked just like the Marvel Select, but I knew he'd be a little bit more durable and more posable, and I was right. I love this figure. It's a freaking awesome figure. There's nothing wrong with him. Nothing at all. He looks exactly like Oliver Copiel's artwork. He stands perfectly, towering over all the other characters. He's actually a little bigger than the Marvel Select figure. Cape is perfect. The wings on the top of the head are perfect. I mean, look at how thorough he looks. The only thing I don't like, which it's kind of a give or take type deal, because this is a nitpick, is that he can't hold his hammer with both hands. But I mean, how often do you really see him do that? Only in the game when he shoots something out of the hammer, or, but you can do without that. It's not a big deal. But that's awesome. The other thing was that they didn't put the inscription on the hammer. I mean, that's what I would have put. It is a detail, but whatever. Most people aren't looking for that. A lot of these quote-unquote fans don't even know that the shit is there. So we won't harass. Thor is like my favorite Avenger. So the fact that every Thor figure that I've had in the last year or two, which is 3 Thor figures, the movie Thor, the 8-inch one from the Avengers Legends line, or Thor Legends line, the Marvel Select version of this one and this one, they've all been good figures. So props to them for this. They did it right. And they had 2 years early to get this shit right, because San Diego Comic-Con proved that this one was a hit. So win for this version of Thor. Epic win for this version of Thor. Next we have Steve Rogers. Commander Steve Rogers. Now my issue with this figure is, okay, you're looking at this artwork and you see all the wonderful details that Mr. McGinnis drew for us. It's a beautiful drawing, awesome artwork. And then you get the figure, and there are things that are missing. Now, this is a close-up of, obviously Mr. Rogers looking a little bit like Daniel Craig from Bond fame. But my issue is the details as far as paint goes. You saw that Cap had the stars on his shoulders. He had white lines going down from about his elbow to where his gloves start. and they eliminated all that stuff, And it's like, like I said before, in the original Marvel Legends, no detail was left, like no detail was left behind. Everything was recreated. If they had it in the comics, they had it as a toy. But that's my only gripe. The figure is well done, although he seems out of scale with previous versions of Captain America figures, which is kind of strange. You would have thought that would have been something they would have had like 300%, a hold on. But I guess that's asking too much from a line that's as well known and well revered as Marvel Legends was. And considering the shitty job Hasbro has done thus far before this line, or these two lines, you would have thought they would have been trying to really wow us. But the scale and the fact that there's no place for you to stow, no holsters or anything for Steve to put his pistols, those are the lamest things about the figure. Besides that, it's pretty decent. Like I said, he's got some strange things going on as far as articulation, and that's the problem with many of the Marvel Legends in these two waves, is that you have a good sculpt, but then when they add articulation, you lose something. Like in between his bicep and his forearm, because he has a double joint, there's this huge chunk of space between where his bicep meets the rest of his arm, and it looks kind of strange when you have him with his arm stretched out doing something, But sometimes people think I'm just nitpicking. But once again, $20. Here's Deathstroke. Look at his bicep. Look at his forearm. I mean, he's not double jointed, but the idea would be that the double joint should be, one of the pegs should be right underneath the bicep. You just cut deeper into the arm to make that double joint a little bit more, necessary. But anyway, I don't make the figures, I just buy them. Now, I like Mr. Rogers. He's pretty cool. Mr. Rogers. It's a pretty cool figure in a sense. I like the character. I like the design. So, I picked it up because I thought it was cool. But, like I said, this isn't a time where it was like, because I'm a fan, I picked it up and the figure was subpar. The figure had its issues, but overall, it's not the worst of the bunch, It's actually one of the better ones of the bunch. This motherfucker right here. This waste of space. I swear there's had to have been 3 or 4 other designs of this character that were more interesting than this. And multiple people have paid more than $20 or more for this figure. This is a bland ass figure. The scale of his freaking claw, quote unquote, his arm is off. The design, I mean, you just paid for pretty much the base of that Iron Man figure with purple trunks and a fucked up head, even though the head actually looks like the character, and that's pretty cool. It's not really, this was a waste of money, I mean, and it sucks because people were being tricked into buying this for Terrax when you could just go on eBay and get the parts. And I know a lot of people probably did that too. But there's a lot of people out there just saying that this stuff is amazing. But like, that does not lead me to believe that any fucking thing is amazing going on with that figure. Nothing, not a thing. They didn't even put a light wash over the red to help define the muscles. Do you see how small the arm is? Look how small that is. It's actually to scale with the rest of his body. And they couldn't do that properly. Yet people are willing to pay $20 for that. You deserve to get your behinds, penetrated. That's exactly what you're doing. You're bending over and just taking it from Hasbro. I mean, I don't expect every figure to be a winner, but for real. Next we have Bucky Cap. This actually is one of the better figures. It looks like they scaled up the Marvel Universe Bucky Cap to 6 to 8 inch scale, and they took all the tooling, all the way that the weapons work, all of everything, and they just made it bigger, and it works in this case. The thing that they shouldn't have done, though, that almost every review kind of pissed me off with, is the fake ass ball socket hip joints. You just can't keep doing that on these figures because we didn't have those with Marvel Legends. We don't have them with Marvel Universe. We didn't have them with DC Universe Classics. We don't have them with Masters of the Universe Classics, so we don't need them here. I don't know where that engineering came from, but it sucks. The shit needs to die, and they need to start making figures that it doesn't take, work to get them to stand in a wide stance. Because all these figures look really nice standing up straight, except for Claw. That's a piece of shit figure, honestly. But and same thing goes for Madam whatever Mask. But most of the figures look good standing straight up. They look thorough. They look, kind of intimidating in some cases. But the fact that you have to work and twist the upper portion of the ball socket joint first before you can twist the bottom half to match the stance sucks. The swivel ankles are awesome because for these figures at this scale, it seems like something that we should have always had. But as far as like G.I. Joe scale, I'm not a huge fan of the swivel feet for G.I. Joes because it just ends up making them look awkward most of the time. Their feet just end up in these weird poses that just don't necessarily look natural. But this figure is definitely a win. Pick him up if you see him. He's worth every penny. Now we got the Future Foundation Spider-Man, who also comes in a variant, which is the Big Time Spidey. I kind of think that this figure is one of those, like, we could have done without it. I know there's a bunch of people out there that are going to say, oh, this was awesome because it was, in the comic and all this stuff. The Future Foundation version makes sense. The variant is kind of like it was so short-lived that why did you even bother with that figure? But that's just me. That's my idea. I've said this about a lot of the DCUC figures too. There's like versions of characters that they're still giving us that nobody gives a shit about, like Vigilante. Why did we get the 80s Vigilante when the cartoon used the old school look? But anyway, Future Foundation, nice, clean, crisp, black and white. It's relevant because it's his modern costume, because now Spider-Man is going the direction Wolverine went in, where he's got a membership of just about every team, and it's like, I'm just saying, more than one team. But the figure's articulation is okay. He's got double joints where they need to be. He can squat. He's a good Spider-Man figure, and he looks kind of big, so he's a little bit more grown than the older ones. Next, we've got Ghost Rider. Now, I know that in the current story, there's the two versions. I think it's Zarathos, and then there's Dan Ketch, or there's the Blaze version and the Dan Ketch version, and they all exist in the same world. Whatever. I don't know. I stopped reading Ghost Rider years ago because they fucked the whole continuity up with bringing Blaze back, with doing this, with doing that. But this figure does not evoke any of the nostalgia that I had for this figure. He looks awesome as like some type of big baddie, like a villain, but it's just not Ghost Rider for me. Some of you might dig it. I don't. So, and he's the hardest one to find, and he comes with the 2 arms of Terrax, so how would you finish Terrax if you can't find him? I don't know. This one's a pass for me. It doesn't look horrible, but it's a pass. Next, we have the variant to Madam Mask, Madam Hydra. You see how beautiful those pictures are, and you see how full her lips are and how pretty she looks, even though McGinnis has a tendency to draw kind of Asian women. And then look at this. Are you fucking kidding me? Did the person who sculpted this look at the artwork? I mean, there's other artwork of her, that she's drawn in a pretty, she's supposed to be kind of pretty. I mean, if they're going for the Cruella de Vil look, then, I would like that to be, consistently shown. So pass on that. And then Drax. What the fuck? Seriously? This looks like someone took Absorbing Man and tried to make, their own little character out of it. And he's just not, he looks like some type of fucked up pimp. Or a gigolo or something. There's some alien gigolo with a knife. You don't pay me, I cut you. Like, just, I know that he's got a cool story from Annihilation and all that, but no, not for $20, no. Constrictor looks cool. He reminds me of Copperhead from DC, and it's possible that DC might have copied or vice versa. I don't know. I really don't care because they're not that important as far as characters. I dig how they connected the Constrictor or the whips or whatever tendrils to his arms, but figure's too plain for me. But you know, some of you might like him. He might be a good villain for like Spider-Man or something. Now, Hope. Now, there's been a lot of drama with Hope and, you know, all the craziness with, you know, her being the thing that will turn the tide and fix all the issues with mankind. But that her sculpt, her head sculpt on this figure is amazing. I dig the fact that her body actually fits because she's a teenager. She's not supposed to be like this voluptuous, grown, thick-ass woman, but that head sculpt is amazing. I hope they reuse it with Jean and maybe tweak things to make her look a little bit older, but it's an amazing head sculpt. I'll give them their props. As for the rest of the figure, I think that she works best when not holding anything. Definitely not a gun. For some odd reason, both waves, people having guns just don't seem to work. They hold their guns at these odd angles, and it just doesn't look natural. It doesn't even look like they're supposed to be holding guns. So I would have her posed not holding a gun, just so that you could, you know, get that feel off with her, make her look more epic. Despite her size and the fact that she's a little on the skinny side, that head sculpt alone, with the fact that her design it is exactly that in the comics, this makes her worth adding to your X-Men collection. I think you have to get her. And now for the collecting connects. I'm not super impressed with who they chose, but I like the Terrax figure. My son digs it too. We might have to collect these things online in order to get all the parts. I think he looks badass. He looks like something that, even though he looks like a blatant ripoff of Darkseid with brighter colors and an axe, he looks like something that, you know, he is a character from the good old days, and he looks like something that, you know, an interstellar threat that he could go toe to toe with your toys. I mean, he's a huge guy. The thing that I don't like about the figure, though, is that his scale, he's as big as Thor, when in the comics I remember him being a little bigger, but that could be just me. Anyway, I think he might be worth collecting the line, or the first wave, I mean. And now we have Mr. Zola. I don't like this version of the character. I dig the character, though. This version looks like it fits more in with the old New God stuff. I like the version that was in the more recent Ultimate Captain America stories, or Ultimates stories, where he was this massive thing that, you know, with all these nasty automatons. I think it'd have been a more interesting figure, but a lot of people love this. I think he's kind of out of place with the designs that the rest of the series is made up from. But it looks like they're kind of taking cues from DC Universe Classics and taking the classic look of the characters, and that's what they're pushing. So, you know, if that's the case, then I guess this works, you know, because he does look dead on to his comic book counterpart. But my gripe is, he is a corny-ass character. He plays a part, don't get me wrong. He plays a good part. But he's one of the more corny, lame characters in the Marvel Universe, as far as villains go, that I could have thrown out 50 other Build-A-Figure ideas that they could have done, and they could have done like an awesome job. How about go back and give us a properly sized Omega Red with better articulation, with better sculpt on his body instead of parts that are just hanging off, you know what I mean? Give us a Brood Queen. They're awesome. How about a Marvel Legends Thanos? Never got one of those. We have Marvel Select though, but they could have done it in the Marvel Legends style. What about Strong Guy? You know, there's a number of characters they could have given us before some of these guys. Cyber, if you want to go with more obscure characters. You know, there's countless Weapon X characters they could have done. I just think that, you know, the choices, they need to make better choices in which figures they decide to use as the Build-A-Figure for each, you know, wave. And I think that would please fans more. Because to be honest with you, Arnim Zola, he hasn't looked like that in a long time. you know? And considering that they put him out because we had the Cap movie that just came out, even though he wasn't in this form in the movie, people know the name from the movie, you would have thought that they would have done a little bit more with the character, you know? Something a little bit more modern instead of all these old school takes. I don't think it was so cool in the DC Universe Classics version. I don't think it's cool here because all it's doing is putting peg warmers out because most people are going to only identify with the more modern takes on the characters. But anyway, this has been how I felt about that stuff, okay? I know a lot of you are going to be like, no, that's not the truth. No, you shouldn't be so hard on them. But to be honest with you, we spend too much money to not be getting quality, you know? When I spend 50 bucks on a Japanese figure, I usually get my money's worth because it comes with a shitload of accessories. The articulation is top notch. I don't have shit like stuck joints or two wrists, two left arms or two left wrists or reverse biceps. I don't have shit like that on the figure. You know, you get what you paid for 20 bucks. You know, this is why I didn't collect the Young Justice figures because they're not worth 20 bucks. I don't care what kind of a stand you put in there. Most of the figures they're starkly decorated. The designs don't actually even follow. They're not on model to the cartoon characters. So why am I going to pay 20 bucks just because it's in a big old box with a big, you know, diorama or display? That's not fair. That's cheap. And then I could get their DC Universe counterparts for 15 to 17 bucks. Really? Or I should say 12 to 17 bucks. But, you know, why be that stupid when we have these choices, you know? So this is how I feel about this stuff. And this has been a long ass overview video, but I feel like a lot of people have been, they're just not looking at these things the right way. Yes, we have been starved for Marvel Legends, but if you think back, do you guys remember getting the Sentinel Build-A-Figure? That is a Build-A-Figure. That is an amazing figure. That thing towers over everything else we have. That was awesome. Now you get Arnim Zola and he's like the same size as some of the other characters. Really? What was the point? He could have been one of the figures in the line. Instead of giving me a variant of fucking Ghost Rider or a variant of fucking wrecking, what's his name, Pile Driver instead of Thunderball, why not just give me Arnim Zola as a figure and save the plastic for something else? You feel me? So anyway, that's been my story, and I'm sticking to it. I don't care who yells at me on this comments video or whatever, or in this overview, I'm sorry. But get at me. Let me know how you guys feel. Let me know if you see where I'm coming from, you know? After a long hiatus, this is what we get. It almost seems underwhelming. You know, it is underwhelming. So anyway, I will talk to you later. Got more reviews coming out for you. And that's it for me. You've been great. Peace.